All right. So welcome everyone. Let me get the slide up here. So lots of great things happening at ArtsBuild. I'm Amy Loudermilk, the programs manager here at ArtsBuild. Today we are joined by Phoebe Hilleman and Peg Koetsch from SAAM, the Smithsonian American Art Museum, with a lot of great education opportunities. And hopefully here towards the end, our friend Shay McCowan with Chattanooga Business Elite will join us. Just wanted to give a quick announcement before we get started, something that is near and dear to ArtsBuild. There we go. So you've got a QR code there on the screen. We are helping to create an art studio space at our local Ronald McDonald House. So if you would, we're going to keep this open until the end of the month to get through a few more paycheck cycles. But you've got a QR code there on the screen that will take you to an Amazon wish list so that we can help create an art studio space for the kiddos and families who use our local Ronald McDonald House while they're experiencing health issues. And so this is just a great way to give back to our community and to get some art therapy because we all know that it works. And so you don't necessarily have to purchase directly from the list, just use that as an idea to guide you. And we're still accepting those things. So if you want to bring them to ArtsBuild, that's fine. We're located on 11th Street, 301 11th Street, and we are just ready to take your donations to share those with our friends at Ronald McDonald House. All right, so I'm going to unshare my screen so we can see everybody. There we go. Alrighty, so today we are joined by, again, Phoebe Hilleman and Peg Koetsch from the Smithsonian American Art Museum. Phoebe is the Teacher Institute's educator at the Smithsonian American Art Museum. She manages the museum's annual week-long summer teacher institutes, which we're really excited about here at ArtsBuild. They're focused on integrating art across the curriculum to bolster critical thinking and content learning. Her work also involves delivering live interactive webinars for teachers, presenting at national and regional education conferences, and inquiry-based teaching in the museum's galleries with students and teachers. So Phoebe has a presentation for us, and then she'll be followed by Peg Koetsch, who is the distance learning coordinator at the Smithsonian American Art Museum. Peg creates and coordinates live interactive learning resources for students and teachers that integrates SAAM's collections with the curriculum of the Department of Defense Education Activity Schools in the US, Europe, and the Pacific region. Peg also trains volunteers who present Artful Connections video conferences to students across the country. She is a national teaching artist at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts and is a creator of the program Museum in Progress, which trains students in museum strategies to construct and tour curriculum-related interactive school museums. She has held education positions at art and natural history museums across the country. But very specifically, she's going to talk to us about SAAM's REACH program. The 2022 Summer Institutes was the first program done in conjunction with SAAM's newest initiative, Rural Engagement in Art, Culture, and History, REACH. As a result of participating in the 2022 Summer Institutes, rural teachers had the opportunity to co-present with Peg at their local, state, or national conferences. The teachers presented excerpts from their lessons, and Peg introduces SAAM's free resources. Throughout the REACH stages, Peg collects and compiles information about the needs of rural educators to assess how the Smithsonian American Art Museum can best serve their needs. And so she's going to tell us about that opportunity, that's the current opportunity for 2023. So I'm going to hand things over to Miss Phoebe.
Great. Thanks so much, Amy. And thanks to you and to ArtsBuild for inviting us here today. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to speak with you all and share about our exciting summer opportunities for teachers. And if you are on the Zoom with us live today, I'd love to just see in the chat what people's roles are. Are you classroom teachers? Are you administrators, community arts organizers? I just love to kind of get a sense of who's in the room, if you don't mind sharing. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right. Can you all see? You all see my screen? Yes. Okay, perfect. I'm going to give you a really brief introduction to our Summer Teacher Institutes, and I'm going to share my contact information at the end. So if anyone would like to follow up and ask more questions, please do get in touch with me. I do have to leave just before 11 o'clock. So if I hop off, please know that you can reach out to me afterward. But we have this Summer Institute for Educators at the Smithsonian American Art Museum that we've offered for a number of years. It's called Teaching the Humanities Through Art. And we're really excited to be kind of ramping back up with this program in 2023 after 2020 and 2021, we offered only virtual programs due to the pandemic. And last year we had kind of a small hybrid cohort that were here in DC for just 2 days. But in 2023, we're planning 2 4-day institutes on site at the museum in DC. And you'll see the dates there at the bottom of the screen. There's 1 week in June and 1 in July. These are parallel weeks, so teachers who are interested would apply, and you can indicate a preference for 1 week or the other, but they're the same experience. And then our application deadline for this year is April 3rd, and I'll share the link with you for where you can find more information and apply. But as Amy kind of set up for us, our institutes are really all about using art as a tool across disciplines to make connections, to foster critical thinking, as well as social emotional skills. As we know, that's increasingly important in classrooms today, and also to develop visual literacy. So just some quick orientation that I'll kind of speed through. For those of you who don't know, the Smithsonian is the world's largest museum complex. And if you've been to DC, you may know that most of our museums are located on the National Mall, kind of in between the Capitol and the Washington Monument here. But our museum is actually located a few blocks north of the mall. And we share a building with the National Portrait Gallery in our Chinatown neighborhood. So that's just a little orientation. And then our collection, as we're the Smithsonian American Art Museum, focuses on American art spanning about 3 centuries, really from the colonial period up through the present day. We're always collecting new artworks and adding to our collection to tell a more complete and diverse story of the American experience. So you can see here just a little sampling. Our collection includes paintings from portraiture to landscape, as well as photography, folk and self-taught art, time-based media, sculpture. So there's a really wide range that our collection encompasses, and almost all, the vast majority of our artworks are digitized and available online. So I think that makes us a really useful resource for teachers in the classroom, because most of the things that you see while you're here in the museum, you can access online and use with your students. So, as I mentioned, our institutes are really about using art across disciplines in the humanities. And we think art can be a really powerful tool for learning beyond just the art classroom. And we love art teachers, but we think that art's power is broader than just being useful in the art classroom. So just to give you sort of a sense of the transferable skills that we think students gain when they analyze an artwork, and probably many of you already know this very well, but thinking about the transferability of these skills, students are learning to observe and describe details, making inferences based on evidence, thinking about how useful that skill is in the history classroom or English language arts or even in science. They're learning to question and investigate. They're learning how to communicate complex ideas and sort of synthesize their thinking. They're entertaining and valuing multiple viewpoints, considering both the artist's viewpoint and viewpoints depicted in an artwork, but also in conversation with each other, sort of understanding that people look at something in different ways depending on their experiences. Art's a great way to sort of welcome emotion and feeling into the classroom and think about empathy, building that skill. And then we find that, conversations about art are a great way to sort of emphasize the point that our thinking is never finished. We can always go back and revise our thinking based on new information, and sort of moving away from that rigidity of like, this is the right answer. Here are just a few little snapshots of past institutes to give you a sense of what it might feel like to be there. When you're here in DC for the Institute, or if you want to share this information with colleagues, this is kind of some of the experiences they can anticipate having are lots of time in the galleries looking at artwork, both individually and in group conversations. You'll be building ideas for a lesson concept that you can bring back to teach with your students during the school year. You'll also get to hear from museum experts in different fields. I have a picture here in the center of our paintings conservator, Amber Kerr, who's showing us how she's using raking light to investigate changes to an artwork based on the treatment they gave it in the conservation studio, and what they discovered about the history of the painting as part of that process. And a big part of the Institute experience is also just getting to know this cohort of teachers from around the country. And we always try to sort of recruit a group of teachers with a range of diverse experiences and from different types of schools, different levels of teaching experience. So you learn from each other. And we also try to provide bonus experiences such as receptions where you all can socialize, and opportunities to tour DC. Like we've offered an evening bus tour of the monuments and memorials in the past. So just to kind of give you on one slide some of the big details and answer some of the questions that might come up. As I mentioned, this year it's going to be 4 days on-site in DC, and we'll also be offering a virtual orientation session and a virtual follow-up session. Our target audience for the Institute is English, social studies, and history teachers for grades 4 through 12. And that's not to say that teachers of other subjects or grade levels should not apply, but just so you know, that's kind of where we're focusing our content. And then the cost, of course, is always a question. So the registration fee is $100, which you would only pay that if you've applied and been accepted. And that fee really goes to just cover your daily meals that we provide and the take-home materials. But we are trying to make it as affordable as possible. We know, obviously, depending on where you're traveling from, the cost can vary greatly. And so we are offering a number of scholarships to teachers up to an amount of $1,500 that can go towards your travel and lodging costs. And you don't have to apply separately for a scholarship. When you apply for the regular institute, you check a box indicating you're interested in being considered for a scholarship. So we are trying to, help mitigate that cost as much as possible when we can. And then we also, for everybody, we'll offer a certificate stating that you completed this program and the number of hours for professional development credit. But we also have the option to enroll in graduate credit for your participation. And that's through a partnership with Trinity Washington University here in DC. So we can offer 3 graduate credits. There is an additional fee. I think it's $375 if you want to earn credit, if you need that for recertification or any other reason. And here's my contact information and a link to where you can read more about the institutes. Again, the application deadline is April 3rd. And if you're interested in learning more, please reach out to me, and please feel free to share this far and wide with teacher networks that you have. And I would love to answer any questions if people have them in the next couple of minutes. I want to make sure Peg has enough time, but if anybody has a question I can answer right now, I'm happy to. Amy, let me know if there's anything in the chat. I'm just catching up.
I don't see anything in the chat, but I did post a link to the PDF of your presentation, Phoebe. So folks have access to that pretty quickly. We've got a lot of great folks involved with education and who work directly with teachers. I know Kate Warren with Art 120 does a lot with teachers and has access to them, and ArtsBuild does as well. Looks like Mr. Henry from our Creative Discovery Museum asked, do you do any training for museum educators? And that's probably going to be part of Peg's presentation, right, Peg? Okay, all right, so we'll touch on that in a little bit, but thank you for that question, Henry.
Yeah, thanks, Henry. Okay, well, I hope you'll either apply yourself or share this with teachers who might be interested, and I will turn it over to Peg.
Oh, one last question, Phoebe.
Yes.
Robin, who is over the education department for our PBS member station WTCI here in Chattanooga, she asked, is there a one-pager that can be shared with educator distribution list?
Yeah, absolutely. Would it make sense, Amy, if I send you a one-pager and you could circulate that?
Absolutely, be happy to. And then Jody, one of our local artists here in Chattanooga, wants to know, is the program open to art teachers as well? So
yes, we have had art teachers come in the past. Because the focus is on integrating art across curriculum, what we found that what works really well is if you apply in a team, and that's one thing I didn't mention. You can apply individually or in a team of 2 with a colleague. So we have had art teachers come independently in the past, but what we really love is when an art teacher will come in a team with a teacher from another subject area. But feel free to reach out to me if you have any more questions. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Phoebe. And I think we're getting you out of here right on time. So
yes.
Really appreciate you visiting us here in Chattanooga today. And I know some folks will be reaching out to you because we've really got a strong arts education group here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County. So thank you again. So I'm going to hand things over to Miss Peg so Phoebe can get on with her Friday.
Thank you all.
And one of the wonders of working from home is that the garbage truck is just going by right now. So if you hear that in the background, I'm sorry about it. So thank you, Amy, for that great introduction. And Phoebe had the opportunity to be able to talk with you in depth about her program. Reach is a whole different animal. It really is something that's trying to take advantage of all the resources that we have here at SAAM. And my job is to be a liaison, but not only between Phoebe, but all my colleagues and what we offer. So what I'm going to try to do today is give you a very fast introduction into some of those things and also respond to questions like Henry's. So you're going to see our building here and a quick definition, as Amy already gave, about reach. And we're trying to get the word out to as many communities as possible what things you can do independently of anybody else on our staff, just point you to that link and send you on your way. Or if you want something that's going to be a little bit more fleshed out for your particular needs, then you speak with me. So for example, to answer Henry's question, yes, I do training for museum educators. So just a quick run through. I want to be able to give you an idea of the kind of strategies and the kind of ways that we integrate our art with different subjects. So I might start off a video conference that we do live with professional development, with teacher work days, with museum educators, with teachers, with students in the classroom. And we always like to do this where we can get a conversation going. And I might ask you to divide up into pairs if you're in a classroom, or working together, or individually coming from home. And I might reveal one part of a painting and ask you, based on the question, how to focus in on it. Like perhaps, where do you think the culture that this person represents, and what are the clues that you see that give you that information? And also, what do you think is going on? And zoom in on the fact that there's a white marble building in the background here. And think about that, and then show you another part of another painting and ask you about this person and what you think their role and responsibilities might be, and notice that there are teepees in the background. And once we have a chance to go in depth and discuss that, then realize they're both in the same painting, and what do you see that's similar and different between these? Now, I'm jumping ahead because you're all educators, and what I'm about to say is not what I've just described, I'm sure is hopefully not new to you. But most people, when they see this, don't realize it's the same person. And we talk about the artist George Catlin as being a white lawyer who quit his profession when Andrew Jackson, the president, signed the Indian Removal Act and decided he wanted to document as many First Nations as possible before he felt they were all going to disappear. And he happened to meet this particular man, whose Indian name translates into pigeon egghead, on his way to DC to argue not to be removed from the lands, but then comes back 18 months later and starts talking about his trip to DC and what he had to do to be able to try to convince the president and the lawmakers to not remove them from the land. And the outcome of this whole thing is that his stories were so unbelievable to his tribe that they actually murdered him. So I've given you a really quick synopsis, but hopefully from that you can tell that we have the ability to teach history, to talk about the heritage, to talk about government, to talk about just how you look at it and analyze a work of art. But we wouldn't want to stop there, because we want to emphasize the fact that this was done by a white man looking at cultures that he did not grow up in. So we would compare it to work done by a contemporary American Indian artist and talk about how they view themselves, and then compare that to Catlin's work. Anybody have any questions about what I just dashed you through? All right, let me give you a quick other example. We could teach English language arts by taking a look at a painting that was influenced and inspired by this poem, and talk about what they see visualized here that is written about here, and also the impact of color in studying that work. And then talk about, again, how artists of different media influence each other. One last quick example I'm going to give you is, if you had a piece of paper in front of you, and we're not going to take the time to do it, but I would ask you to think about the first place your eye goes to when you look at this print. And I would ask you to draw just a circle around that and put it on your paper to the scale it is in this piece, and also its location. And then I would ask you to draw a line around your eye's path as it moves around the rest of this print. And then I'd ask you to imagine that you've got glasses that only let you see geometric shapes. And if you could only see triangles, rectangles, circles, squares, trapezoids, where would you find those, so that you're dividing this print up into a puzzle? And last but not least, I'd ask you to darken in the darkest areas, shade in the gray areas, and keep the lightest areas the color of the paper. Now, I haven't said a word about this piece or who's in it or any of the content. I'm just giving you tools on how to be able to look at a work of art and be able to analyze its compositional elements. But once done, then we'd go back and talk about why this setting is the way it is. Why would George Washington want to be with his family? Why is his sword and Martha's fan pointing to a map? Turns out it happens to be land that they owned. And they also convinced the government to start building our nation's capital in this spot. And then who's in the background? And why is he there? And what does his body language and position tell you about his relationship to the family? So again, I'm trying to give you some really quick examples of what we might do when we want to give an idea to teachers how to use strategies that we've employed about using the artworks, and at the same time be able to integrate art into teaching other subjects. And then we also talk about the performing arts as well as found objects turned into art. And this is just a quick example of Nick Cave. And we have videos of artists who are alive that are in our collection. And in the course of doing a video conference or some kind of training, we would include that artist's voice whenever we can. So all this is leading up to a page that briefly highlights some of the resources that we have. And it doesn't begin to give you the idea of what can be done in depth if you joined up online with a professional development program that happens on a month-and-a-half basis. And all those PDs are recorded so you can easily go back to previous themes. The Artful Connections program is done, as Amy mentioned, with a core of volunteers that I trained who take these topics that you see and offer them for free, starting with 3rd grade through 12th grade. And again, we do it per classroom. So if all 5th grade in one particular school wanted to learn about African-American artists, they would schedule those to be individual classes, not an assembly. So again, we can get that conversation going and get those students engaged in activities like I just took you through very quickly. Then there's also teacher guides and resources, all of which can be downloaded. And we've got, as I mentioned, the video interviews of artists in our collection, a lot of different ideas from Learn From Home that also include social emotional learning toolkits that can be downloaded in English and Spanish. And this is the cover for one of those toolkits that you see here. So these are summer institutes that were mentioned by Phoebe. And in those classroom video conferences, all you have to do is go to a particular website that we link up with for being able to schedule those. And as I mentioned, everything I'm showing you is free. And in doing the REACH program that I've been involved with now for about 1.5 years, we find that place-based learning is a top priority. And I noticed in some of the descriptions of what you're involved with in the chat box, you mentioned connecting students to their locale. And that's what we're particularly interested in. And I have found that when I talk about this, a lot of people are asking what we have in our collection, images that show a particular area, their part of the country. We don't necessarily have that, but if you want to think about how students can connect with their community, with their locality, I want to point out that we've got works that certainly talk about a particular state or a particular area in conjunction with the rest of the country, like this electronic superhighway by Nam June Paik. But it also needs to be put into a time context because it has videos playing in each of the states that reflect what he learned about the United States when he moved here from South Korea. And then we also have a recording a changing nation. And this is a complete lesson plan, video interviews of photographers, how to do it program put together by my colleague based on photographic surveys that you can see were done in 55 communities. And we use this as a framework, not to say turn around and do exactly what you find in this complete project layout, but use it as a way to be able to think about how to structure something, again, that's going to connect your students with the community. And in conjunction with this, what I want to mention is a program that I do based on what the goals of teachers and art educators are, where I teach the students and teachers how to think like a curator and turn something into an interactive museum. And whether that exists in the hallways of their school, or whether it might be something they might show in the windows of a supermarket or put on display in the library, it's the students doing the research, making connections to their community, documenting changes or what they see happening in the future, and being able to share that with the community. So if that's something that you're interested in, certainly contact me about that. Then Learning Lab is a wonderful tool that the whole Smithsonian has made available. And again, it's free. And by going to Learning Lab, you can put in some kind of a term here, and it will pull from across the whole institution, all 19 museums, the zoo, all of our research centers around the world, all the digitized resources connected to that term. And you are able to register for free and then be able to start a collection where you can literally pull those resources out and put them into your collection. So to give you an idea, these are ones that have already been put together by my colleagues and myself. So you can see we've organized them according to these different themes and how many collections are underneath each of those themes. So I really took you on a fast roll through there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen to find out any questions you may have. And I'm going to put my email in the chat box.
And so everybody knows, just like I did for Phoebe's presentation, I'm posting a link right after Peg's email to a PDF of Peg's presentation that she just showed you. It's, like she said, much more in depth than what she's gone into. I know Peg and Phoebe both, we've got some teachers and some local organizations in the community in our more densely populated areas around Hamilton County who can use these resources. And I know ArtsBuild will definitely be sharing them out into the greater community. So thank you for allowing us access to those presentations. So we've got questions, so bring them on.
Or anybody want to unmute?
Yeah, feel free to unmute. This is a community Zoom, so would love to hear questions.
Yeah, hi. I do have a question actually about the rural initiative. I'm just curious, how successful has that been and what barriers have you found to reach rural audiences? We're trying to work with a number of rural audiences. So I just want to know, just get a little better sense of your experience there.
Well, it's ironic when you asked that question, because just yesterday I presented to our volunteer staff at SAAM, and it took me an hour to help explain to them all the challenges that we've been facing and how we overcome them. So I can start from, just give you a sample. When we walk into the room, we realize we're the elephant in the room. And yes, 2 days ago when I met with teachers in Hawaii, they were wondering why we would even bother to come there. And what does a museum know about education, let alone an art museum? So those are some of the big challenges that we have found right away. But I find that, as soon as they realize we're focusing on strategies and how to be able to adapt those to anything, that really makes a difference. And also, having been a classroom teacher, just telling that to them, and so I know what they're facing from their perspective, makes a big difference too.
Okay, thank you. It's interesting.
It is. And if you want to, I'd be happy to talk to you more about it, and anybody else that you're teaming up with to try to do it. We've learned a lot. And I also didn't mention that the Smithsonian, based on what we're doing, is now hiring somebody to do rural outreach across the whole institution. They haven't posted that position yet, but what they've done is pluck people from different Smithsonian units to share what we are learning so that we know how to be able to implement this on a national level.
Okay, no, thanks. That's interesting. We're working on a rural initiative with some other more related to science and art. As a children's museum, we cover all areas, but working for a statewide rural initiative for STEAM education. So I might want to connect you with some of the people that in that group, and it's part of an IMLS, a leadership grant. So thank you.
Definitely. Yeah. If you'd like to invite me at some point to be able to brainstorm and share, what we've learned, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure.
Henry, Peg, I'm happy to facilitate an introduction email just to get you guys rolling.
Okay.
I've already done that for a couple of folks here in the group, and I'm planning on sending it out to folks who aren't able to attend today, who really wanted to.
Okay, thanks, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm just going to introduce myself and thank you. I love the Smithsonian. I was up there for like 7 years, and the highlight of our time was going from Harper's Ferry to the Smithsonian. And I just wondered, like, what's a working definition of rural at this point?
Well, that also goes back to Henry's question about challenges. We find that whoever we talk to, if they say they're rural, we have to kind of take them at their word for it. But one year during the Summer Institute, I looked through all the applications with Phoebe, and we, of course, asked them if they were rural. And there was one man I had to strike from the list because he's from Brooklyn. I said, now, come on, I think we'd all agree that's not rural, to do it. But yeah, it really depends, not just the population, but in geographic location, but also what surrounds you. So I use a map, and I can share that link with Amy. I don't have it handy right now, that we use to be able to double check what national organizations in the Department of Education feel are considered rural. But if you're looking at the state of Tennessee, everything other than Nashville, we pretty much consider rural in terms of SAAM's definition. Let me put it that way. And I have worked extensively with an art teacher who was the director for the Murray County Public Schools. He recently left that position and went to Nashville, and we're still working with him. We don't drop anybody. So that's, it's relative.
That's a great pronunciation too, Peg.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Any other questions? And again, you're always welcome to email Phoebe and me. We share the same office. We do a lot of collaboration.
I'm sure you're going to be getting some emails. So thank you so much for being responsive and being available to us. This is an incredible resource for our educators in the Hamilton County area. And ArtsBuild has friends in the surrounding areas, which are much more rural than downtown Chattanooga. So I'm happy to make some introductions for you there as well.
That's great, Amy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Peg.
Have a great
Thank
Friday.
you.
Have a great weekend.
So we were going to have a presentation from our friend Shay McCowan of Chattanooga Business Elite, but she is not able to join us today. So I just wanted to take a quick moment to share some information with you all about the work that they're doing and the award ceremony that they have coming up at the end of the month. So I'm going to share my screen and go. All right, so let's see here. Move this up. There we go. Can everybody see that? I've just pulled up web pages for Chattanooga Business Elite. So the Chattanooga Business Elite is a collective group of creatives, entrepreneurs, community leaders, business owners, and advocates working together to inform and connect Black individuals in Hamilton County and surrounding regions. I hope you will go to their website, chatbusinesselite.com. You should see it there at the top of your screen. to see how your organization or you can support them as an individual. They are in charge of the Black Excellence Chattanooga Awards, which recognizes and celebrates Black businesses that have excelled in customer service. We do have a Black artist category, which ArtsBuild supports, and we work with those entrepreneurs as well. So, and again, the website for that is chatbusinesselite.com/BEC Awards 2023. So I hope you'll explore that and see how you can support this organization moving forward, or your organization can also buy sponsor a table or attend the event coming up next Saturday. And it is, I've gone for the past couple of years, and it is an incredible event, and you get to learn so much more about our community and the creatives that make things possible where we are. So now we've got some information, some time for you all to share any updates that your organizations might have with the community. I know James has already popped in the chat a link about a new opportunity from ArtsBuild, the Chattanooga Art Climate Project. So if you would just click that link to get more information. James, you want to tell us anything more about that?
Yeah, so this is a new project that we're doing with Lyndhurst Foundation, and it's focused on climate issues, particular to the Rossville Boulevard corridor. And those issues are really heat islands and flooding. So what we're doing is we're inviting 3 artists locally from that neighborhood or neighborhoods along the corridor to become fellows for a year to create art and educate the public about climate issues. And this could be artists from any type of discipline. And during that project, they're also going to work with a nationally recognized social practice type environmental artist that's going to do a major piece of art here in Chattanooga about some of Chattanooga's climate issues. So that is just the call to artists. It's actually probably going to open up this weekend and go out. You'll probably see some press about it next week. But if you do have relationships with artists, writers, dancers, musicians, any type of arts or creatives along the corridor, please let them know, because that is a great opportunity for a part-time year-long artist residency.
Thank you, sir. It's a sharp new haircut.
Thank you.
Any other announcements from our friends in the audience? Anything going on with our local organizations that our community at large needs to be aware of?
Melissa, do you want to say anything about the technical mastery grant and the mission support?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa. I help oversee the grant programs here at ArtsBuild. We have 2 grants. One is active and one is about to be active. The Technical Mastery Grant is for organizations up to 500,000, arts organizations up to 500,000 operating budget. It is a $5,000 grant, is a 1-to-1 match. So you're granted $2,500. It's a cash match of another $2,500. And it's a great fast turnaround grant. You can pay for training, small equipment, things that grants don't often cover. And I will leave my email in the chat so you can get the guidelines. It will not go through our traditional grants system. You'll email all the documentation directly to us, and then we'll make funding decisions. The other one is our Mission Support Grant, our largest grants program. Currently, we have 19 mission support organizations, and we're looking to explore others who choose to apply as well. So that's exciting. It is live through our grant system, and I'll put the link in the chat as well. And it's for arts organizations, for mission support. It's a very straightforward grant. If you have questions, you're welcome to reach out. 2 major dates to keep in mind, or the intent to apply is February 1st. and March 1st is the application deadline. And if you have any questions while I'm on the call, you're welcome to ask them. And we have several mission support grantees on the call, such as Henry and Kate, and I think Dawn is on the call for Chattanooga Boys Choir. So yeah, great representation.
Hi, Amy. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Emma.
It's Emma with Scenic City Shakespeare. I wanted to make sure everyone knew that we are casting our May Shakespeare in the Park production of As You Like It, and we would love to have your audition. This production is funded through an ArtsBuild Communities grant through the Tennessee Arts Commission and ArtsBuild, which we are so grateful for. And we are lucky to offer a stipend to our actors, a small one, thanks to that. So send us your video audition. I will put the link to the audition page in the chat. The auditions are video submission only for your convenience. So we would love to have you involved. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Jennifer, I see your hands up. Just jump on in here.
I have a cold, so I'm not doing my video because I look like potato soup. But I have, we are dismantling the Chickamauga Chattanooga museums or visitor centers theater. And so we have slide projectors, some digital projectors, can lights, and some of the grid system. Anybody who's interested, if you'll let me know, I'll send you a survey link. Oh, okay, there, I see you. I'll send you a survey link. I'll send it to Amy. How about that? So that anybody can who wants to, and it's free for the taking, with, of course, a priority on our education nonprofit. So you guys are that. And there's a bunch of stuff, but it is old. I mean, it's outdated stuff, but can lights, I mean, they're not trendy anyway. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Always so helpful. All right. Anybody else? Questions, comments, cries of disbelief? All right. Well, if you think of anything and it's something that you want ArtsBuild to get out in the community for you, we do have our weekly ArtsWire publication that hits email inboxes every Thursday. So make sure to get us that information by the end of the day on Wednesday so that we can include that. You can email Catherine for ArtsWire submissions. I'm going to put that in the chat here. And we can get that out to the greater community. I'm always happy to send things out to our email list. And I know Melissa's happy to communicate things with our community arts partners who receive our mission support grants. So we've got lots of email lists that we're happy to share your information with here at ArtsBuild. And with that said, I think it wise to hand you all back the 10, 11 minutes that we've got left. So hope you all have a fabulous weekend, and check your email boxes, check your spam boxes to make sure that we're not going there, because I know we're emailing you all frequently. So, but thank you for spending some time with us today and learning about what the Smithsonian has to offer our local educators and arts educators in the community. So everybody have a great day.